10. Trust. I was eager to begin the detox program, but I had more questions. I was feeling reluctant to move forward with it because of the vibes I was getting. The carrot dangling in front of my face feeling and what Marcia had said about me not feeling comfortable with the spiritual healer that I had been working with. I was questioning what was going to happen during these sessions. I wore them both out. I think they wanted to throw in the towel before we had even started. I wanted help, but I wanted help. I felt Marcia was superficial and insincere. All of this made me leery and on guard. Marcia had spoken very highly of her master, and she raved about him. She alluded to the idea that she could be my master. I really did not know what that meant at the time. I had done a little more research on the shop's website about who these two women were. They both had many spiritual gifts, as well as had successful careers prior to becoming healers. Another reason I felt reluctant about moving forward with the program was that Marcia had made a comment in my intuitive reading that she wasn't going to answer my questions about my abuse because I was too sensitive. Marcia had compared her own story of abuse with mine. The only thing that our experiences had in common was that we were both violated sexually and had little memory of it. She had time to deal with not having the memory of her trauma. I had only recently realized what had happened to me and was still processing it. I was still processing the fact that I had repressed memories and that I couldn't completely recall everything that had happened. She never divulged if she had support from her family or if she ever told her family. I was 3, and I tried to tell my family, but nobody listened to me. I needed and wanted compassion and support. Out of the blue, my sister Tara called me to wish me a happy birthday. We hadn't spoken in a long while. I want to say many years. We had sent Facebook messages back and forth, but they were rare. It was nice to hear from her. Her birthday is 3 days after mine, and she's 2 years older than me. I knew intuitively at the age of 2 that I had a sister, but I think as I got older, I ignored that I knew this. I didn't meet my sister until I was 21 when she had come to visit me in Tahoe. I had always wanted to embrace her as my sister. I never felt that I could wholeheartedly embrace her for some reason. I think I felt as though it was a betrayal to Mother for some reason. I don't even know why I felt that way. I hadn't seen her in 23 years. The last time I had seen her was when she had come to stay for about a week, when Alex was 6 weeks old. She was on her way to Guatemala to learn Spanish. I told Tara about becoming a spiritual healer, and her response was how wonderful that I would be a healer like our mom's dad. He was also a healer. He was a chiropractor. Hearing that made me a little sick to my stomach. Then I told her about what I had just discovered about my repressed memories and about being sexually abused by him. I knew she had been a nurse at a women's health center for years and was trained in being compassionate in these situations. But the sincerity and compassion she showed me and how she apologized to me for what had happened to me was the only time I had ever felt that someone truly heard my story and cared about me. Her compassion was sincere and genuine. My boys did take me out to eat and gave me gifts and cards. Shelley and her boys made me a happy birthday banner and a card for me. My family didn't call me or send me a card to wish me a happy birthday on my birthday. A few days later, my mother called to wish me a happy birthday. I was still angry from our previous conversation, and the fact that she hadn't called me on my birthday, it made me feel unloved by my mother. Somehow during our conversation, we ended up talking about my sexual abuse. She proclaimed that she didn't believe me, and that she wanted proof of the abuse. I wasn't one to make up stories or create drama for attention. I was not that kind of person for her to treat me that way. I was reeling with hurt. I was in tears. To me, that was abuse on top of more abuse. I hung up the phone, and that was the last conversation I ever had with her. How was my mother ever going to believe me? How was I supposed to give her proof of something that happened to me when I was 3? How do you give proof of that happening anyhow? How could I ever talk to her or see her again? Why would I want to? There was still a part of me that didn't want to cut ties with her. I still wanted to love my mother. I didn't want to have to cut ties with my family again. I had just reconnected with my family after 5 years, and here I was, losing them again. During the days following, I remember speaking on the phone with Catherine, and somehow I was convinced to move forward with the program. I had begun the actual detox a day or two prior to the first counseling session. I honestly had no idea what was going to unfold or how I would benefit from the whole thing. The first few days I worked with Catherine, we used FaceTime for the counseling sessions. Nearly every day that I met with these women, they would begin the session by looking at my face and taking a good look at me. Catherine always took a closer look, and it was more of a physical examination. It was as though she could see underneath my skin and into my brain. I would physically feel like she was poking around in my head. It was the oddest sensation, and I had mixed feelings about her doing that. When working with Catherine, we had written down every physical illness I ever had. Then, we looked at my emotional strengths and weaknesses. I call this diagnosing metaphysical or spiritual illnesses. She called it something else. I was familiar with spiritual illnesses from my internet research. Any physical symptom, disease, or illness a person has can be traced to an emotional problem. Once you are aware of an underlying emotional problem, you can explore what may have caused it. This helps reveal negative patterns that we live and were created by the trauma of an experience. I knew I had self-esteem issues. I had a hard time letting go of things. I had fears. I had a lot of unresolved grief, and I wasn't happy. We dug deeper. There were more things uncovered, or rather, things that were narrowed in on. Some of the things we uncovered was guilt, shame, anger, a sense of abandonment, extreme self-criticism, anxiety, rejection, passivity, emotionally closed off, depression, worrying, self-doubt, insecurity, unable to relax and trust, unrealistic expectations of myself and others, fear of being disconnected from my family, feeling like I didn't belong, rage, blocked passion, emotional instability, and indecisiveness. Yep. So the result was that I was pretty fucked up. I kept some notes in a journal about these sessions. After a few days, Catherine seemed to be finished with a deeper investigation as we switched gears and just seemed to be having more laid-back conversations. I told her that my legs had started shaking again and that I had pressure in my head. She said that the leg shaking was getting rid of body tension, and the forehead tension was related to my power of creation and manifestation of thoughts. I was still focused on trying to retrieve my memories. I knew that Marcia was too meek and afraid that I was going to completely unravel from her telling me something ugly. I felt Catherine had a better understanding of me. I felt I could ask her. I felt that she would be more straightforward with an answer. When I asked her, she said that the sexual abuse was a violent penetration. She had me tell my body, my intestines, and anus sorry for what had happened. So now, I knew that he had sodomized me. Catherine went on to say that it was energy abuse and that this trauma was in the memory of the cells of my body. This trauma violated my boundaries and left that impression on my energy field. In that session, we also talked about if I felt like a slave. I felt that I needed to sacrifice myself. I did feel like a slave. I had felt that all my life. I felt I sacrificed my needs and desires for the people around me. She asked about what I needed to feel safe and secure. I needed money to provide the basics, and I also needed my car. She asked why I needed my car. I needed a car because I knew I had to go places and do things in my future. I couldn't give specifics. I didn't know exactly why I needed my car. I knew it wasn't necessarily for real estate work. She got this look on her face when looking into her mind's eye, as if she were looking into the future and understood why. Because she said, "Oh, I see."